So sorry it took us so long to get here. Obviously, the other building at this convention is in America. Yes, I had to cross the border again just to get here.
Oh my goodness.
Welcome.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah. I know, this is like, I feel like we're an intimate little conversation here with us. Yeah, I'm Eric Stuart, if you didn't figure that out.
Hi, I'm Rachael Lillis, and I haven't been to Toronto in quite a while, so it's lovely to be here. It's one of my favorite places. And I've really enjoyed meeting everybody coming up to the table. And it's good to see Eric and Veronica because it almost never happens. So
we're not just friends in the animation world, we're friends in real life, which is kind of crazy. Yeah.
It's very nuts. But yeah, how's the convention going for you guys? Yeah? Wonderful.
So you're going to do some Qs and then we're going to do some As?
Yeah,
all right.
Maybe.
Okay, good.
We'll see how this goes. All right, so if you guys would like to start forming my line right here, and then we can start getting this panel started. So the first question I'm going to ask, just to get this started, can you guys talk about how you guys auditioned for the roles that you guys were, or how did it get started? We're talking 1995 here, right?
Oh man, that was
1998.
I'm sorry I just did you that way.
Wow.
March of 1998.
March of 1998.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to go first, Rach?
Oh, it was the spring of 1998, and it was
this.
Irish Spring. Let's see. Well, I had lived in New York for a little while, and I was going to school, and I was working, and I was auditioning for whatever came up, and I got in touch with a production company that licensed Pokémon. Through an ad I answered in an acting trade newspaper. And I did some work for one company, and my name wound up in the producer's hands and they just auditioned all of us that they knew of, people that they just knew and had worked with. So they said, there's an audition for something called Pokémon or Pokémon. We don't know how it's pronounced. Eric can tell.
Thinking that.
Eric has a whole amazing story about the pronunciation.
Yeah.
And they said, well, it's at this guy's apartment on the Lower East Side, and
that's not weird.
so I'm like, oh, that sounds legit.
Yeah.
And so I went to. He had a rock band and he had a home studio, so I'm like, all right. So I went there, and there was he had a home studio in his living room, and the first episode of Pokémon playing in Japanese on a kitchen TV in his kitchen. And he goes, well, somebody's auditioning, so why don't you go watch some of the animation to see what the show is. And as soon as I saw, when I was waiting to audition, I saw Pokémon for the first time. And it was when Ash first meets Pikachu, when he has the clothesline and the pink gloves and everything. And then, I don't know if you guys remember, but Pikachu runs up to the tree and laughs at Ash, and it's very resistant to the whole thing. And as soon as I saw that, I fell in love with the show. I said, this is the most adorable thing I've ever seen. I hope I get something on this. And so I auditioned, and many callbacks later. And so we've started officially recording. Well, we did a lot of work sessions, but we officially started recording like in May. So it took a while to get to that point. So that's how it started at the very, very beginning.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I was originally brought in to do a promo for a new show that was coming up. And I walk into the room, and the line basically was, coming soon, Pokémon. And the room was filled with about 6 or 8 producers and writers and creatives. And that was the one line of copy that no one could agree on how we pronounced. So I said, coming soon, Pokemon. Coming soon, Pokemon. Coming soon, Pokemon. What? Pokemon? How we saying it? And it was that one line. I think it was like a 1-hour session. I came back like a second day to do some more tweaks to it. And I just sort of tucked that away in my brain of that was crazy session, number 375, whatever. A couple of months later, I had been working on a series called Slayers. I don't know if you guys remember Slayers. Thank you. I played Gowry on that, and so I was part of this sort of little clique of New York voice actors that were willing to work in anime and do this stuff that was like, in the back of, if you guys remember like Blockbuster, it'd be like in the back shelf in some corner, it'd be like, oh, the anime, I think that's somewhere in the storeroom, you could find some stuff, right? So, right, exactly, right? So I get this call, we'd like you to audition for a new series that we're doing because we know you work with on the Slayer stuff. And I was like, cool. So I came in and I auditioned for Pokemon and I got nothing. I got no roles. The guy that they picked for Brock, they started working with and then they decided they didn't like him. So they called me. And it's like that backhanded compliment. Hey, you're the number 2 choice. We want to hire you. I was like, does that mean you like me or you have to settle for me? All right, fine, it's work. So that's how I got Brock. And of course, I used, when they were like, we need you to be like a 15-year-old boy, and now I was much younger then anyway, but I wasn't 15. My favorite anime growing up was Battle of the Planets, G-Force, right? And if you watch the original Battle of the Planets, I mean, obviously the dub, Casey Kasem is Mark from G-Force, and that was my favorite guy. So Brock is my version. Brock is basically Casey Kasem. It's like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo without the pot, right? So I used that voice, and they were like, yeah, this is great. And I was like, cool. But my buddy was playing James in the beginning, and a very talented actor, Ted Lewis. And Ted is also a stage actor. And so he had an opportunity to be in a play and was like, I don't want to do the cartoon anymore. And so then they called me and they said, can you voice match James? I think it's the first 5 or 6 episodes. And I was like, sure. So I listened to what Ted had done and what they were doing. They said, now listen, Team Rocket is supposed to be legitimately bad guys. Now you laugh now, right? But it was so funny is that they hadn't had a chance to see future episodes. So in the beginning, they were like, the Japanese played them very straight. This is what they need to, and I was like, I don't think that's right. I think they're supposed to be the comedic bad guys. They're like, no, they're you got to play it very straight. So like my first couple of episodes were very sort of flat, right? And then like the next episode, James is in drag. And I'm like, I told you. So all of the wackiness and the silly laugh and all of that stuff, that came after it was like revealed like, oh, they're funny. So that's how I got those roles. And with every show that we've ever auditioned for, you always get the same setup from the producers, which is this show is going to be the biggest thing ever, right? And so they had said that to me when I walked in. I was like, yeah, whatever. It's, but obviously it became that. So there's our stories of how we got our roles, yeah.
2 questions. First is for Eric.
Okay.
Having been involved in the production side, you were the producer and director, and I was actually wondering, why do the later movies, or at least the ones you were involved with, have the Japanese music intact, while the vast majority of episodes have a lot of the Japanese music replaced?
Good question. So it's all about licensing. So for those of you who don't know, I directed Yu-Gi-Oh! I directed some Pokemon. I directed a Pokemon movie here and there, and so I was on both sides of the glass for many, many years. And one of the reasons is when they purchase the licensing of a show, right, and they reformat it, when they license it to different countries, the voices are being replaced, right? But if the music is not being replaced, then you're making residuals on that end of it. So what 4Kids decided was, hey, we'll redo the music so that when it's airing in Canada or it's airing in, France or Germany or whatever, and they're replacing the actors, us, with their local actors, they're still making the money on the licensing of the music. So it's all about that, which makes a lot of sense. Now, in some of the films, there might have been a deal with the Japanese company. You can't change, you remove that song or whatever, but a lot of the movies, even the closing credits, we might have used their music, but we rewrote the lyrics, and so they own the publishing on that end of it, so it was all about that. So, or they bought the rights to it and then made money on that as well. So it's all about the money. That's how it works. Thank you very much. Yeah. That was only one question, though.
Okay. I just only decided to have one question.
That's good, too. I respect that. Hey, nice cosplay.
Very nice.
That's
Thank you.
awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Pleasure to meet both of you.
You too?
And I'm just going to start the recording now. I guess sort of two-parter. First question for both of you is, what is it about playing the characters of Pokemon that really had an impact on each of your lives? And the second part is, what's your favorite Pokemon?
I think playing both Jessie and Misty had an impact on my life because, and I've told this story recently. I did not know until we had done a fair amount of work on the show that Jessie and Misty were recurring characters. I didn't know. I thought they were just going to be in, I think the very first episode we dubbed was the Battle of the St. Anne. It was a two-parter, and we did a lot of work, a lot of rewrites, re-recordings, and it was a lot of hours in the studio. And I thought, I don't know why I didn't know, why I wasn't told, why I thought, okay, well, Jessie and Misty are going to leave, or Team Rocket and maybe Brock and Ash and Pikachu are the recurring characters. So I was just completely believing that. It's like, after we're done recording here, I'm done with this job. And so we finished the two-parter, and I said to the director, thank you very much for this job. I really enjoyed working with you. If you ever need voice actors in the future, please give me a shout. I'd be honored. I'd love to come back. And while I was talking to him, he was looking at me like, what are you talking about? And I said, well, I'm done, right? And he said, no. I said, well, I mean, Jessie and Misty leave, and then Ash goes to another town and meets all new people, right? And he's like, no. But, really? Now, over the course of those work sessions, it was so much work, and I was quite tired vocally at the end of each session, and I wasn't used to it. And this was where the lesson, the impact comes in, is that I learned how to cope with more strenuous voice sessions and get used to it and be better prepared and warm up and do a better job with that. So that was a very learning experience. And then, this conversation with the director, he's like, well, no, you're coming back. And I said, oh, well, so you're saying Jessie and Misty are in more episodes? And he said, yeah. So how many episodes are they in? And he's like, all of them. And then I was like, wow, this has been a very intense experience. So my next question was, how many episodes are in a season? And he looked at me, he's like, how can you not know this? And he said, 52. And like I've told this story, that was my Dustin Hoffman Tootsie moment. When Dustin finds out that they've picked up his option for another year and he has to dress up like a woman for another year. And I said, I don't know if I can handle this. So I went, and I said, oh gosh, I don't know if I can handle this. This was an intense experience. This is new. But I didn't say anything, and I just kept coming back, and I adapted as best as I can, because it's like, I'm a struggling actor, I need a job. So I just stayed with it, and I got used to it more and more. And that was the impact. I learned a great deal from doing those two characters. Just as a voice actor, I had to grow quite a lot. I think the saying is, you can only learn by doing. There is no other way. And that was definitely a big lesson. I'd say the other effect it had is that it kind of brought me closer to my nephews and nieces because they got into Pokemon. They didn't know I was on the show. They thought I voiced Caterpie. And they said, we love Caterpie. And I said, I didn't do that voice, but thanks. I think it's very cute too. But we bonded over time. So there was a lot of miscommunication, is basically my point. But yeah, I learned a great deal, and I started to talk more with with people. And I think I kind of rediscovered my own interest in animation more. It was just a whole new perspective for me. So yeah, it's an interesting question. Thank you.
Let's see. Well, so for me, as a working entertainer, to have anything that's regular was fun. What I really enjoyed about playing those characters on that show is that even with all the comedy and the goofiness that's involved, there was always a moral to the story in Pokemon. And I say this in a lot of the panels that it really doesn't take like a genius to figure out sort of the ABCs of why certain shows work. We're all sort of quirky individuals. Anybody who's in fandom at all, I'm a gamer geek, that's my thing, is that sometimes we feel like we're the outsider and not, but here, and especially conventions like this, we're the norm, right? And the acceptance and stuff like that is something that I think we could all benefit from in regular society as well. And what to me was so cool about that show was, even with all the silliness, there was always a character you could relate to, whether you felt like Ash was, I totally get this, or no, I'm the quirky best friend, or I'm Brock who's distracted by shiny things, things like that. I was a 15-year-old boy in school, I know what that's like, but there was always something very rewarding about at the end of the show, the lesson that was taught, and it was subtle, but it was there. So it was nice to be able to add, the comedy side of that with the sort of the touching human side of that. But the other thing is, I'm a singer-songwriter, I'm a musician, and this show gave me the opportunity and the freedom to do what I truly, that is in my soul, my passion, which is to play music, without having to think about, well, does that music gig pay enough to do this, do that? This is a bonus as a voice actor, to then be asked to appear at a convention and sign autographs and do panels and things like that. That wasn't part of the deal. That's a bonus that I'm very grateful that that's part of it. It gives me an opportunity to meet fans, which when you're working in a recording booth, you don't really get a chance to do that. But the other thing that I do is that I get to play music in every city that I visit. So, I'm playing a concert here, and that just gives me a chance to share who I am with a fan base that knows me maybe for one thing, but not for the other. So Pokemon gave me the flexibility to do more of what I truly love. And I love being a voice actor, trust me. I love it. But it's work, it's a job. And I'm thankful that I was able to work on that show for so many years, and other shows too. But good question, thank you. Oh, Squirtle, easily. That was the first voice that I got to do, and he wears sunglasses, and he's extra cool. I'm actually the whole Squirtle squad, so I have to say Squirtle.
I like Charizard and Gyarados. I like, big flying fighting, the mighty Pokemon.
There you go.
Yeah, and to branch off what Eric was saying about meeting people at conventions, it's incredibly gratifying to hear everyone's stories about how Pokemon or their hobby led to meeting their best friends, their spouses, bonding with their families, their interest in art, writing, also anime in general. So that's been a very amazing thing to hear, y'all's stories. Mm-hmm. It's incredible. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi there. How you been?
Good. How are
How
you?
are you?
I'm good. The reason why I'm here, I want to ask you 2 questions. Okay, 1, what is your favorite food? And 2, how would you feel if Jesse and James team up with Ursula and Xander
Oh, he didn't do Xander. He did Dr. Z.
from Dinosaur King?
Well, you know that I'm Dr. Z, right?
Yes, Dr. Z, yeah.
Yeah, that would be kind of weird if I also was. You know that those characters were so modeled after Pokemon that when we were asked to be on that show, the producer, who also produced a lot of the Pokemon stuff, said, I can't have you play these characters because they're too much like Team Rocket, so we want you to play Dr. Z. But my favorite food, I'm a big sushi guy. That's it. That's my favorite food.
Yeah. Gosh, I don't know. I love chocolate.
And chocolate sushi.
Chocolate sushi. All chocolate in all its forms is so versatile.
Yes.
So yeah, and how would we feel about Ursula and Dr. Z? I think they had an interesting relationship, an interesting dynamic. He was just always annoyed with her.
Yes.
And she was terrified of him.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we play that out in real life. No.
No. So there you go.
There you go.
Yeah, I know. I know.
No, that's fine.
And plus, I was drinking a lot during that time. Yep, you got it.
Next question.
Yep.
Hi.
Hey.
Hello. I was just wondering, what are your opinions on the Detective Pikachu movie?
Well, personally for me, I haven't seen it. I think it's great that the franchise continues, but like, I don't know, that's just kind of weird to me. It's like, I guess I'm more into the one genre. Like I don't want to see sort of CGI weird Pokemon stuff. You know, I mean, if people enjoy it, that's great. I like Ryan Reynolds. I think he's hilarious. I don't know. That just seems like how can we put more things on a lunchbox? You know. I mean, really,
stuff on
yeah.
there.
You know.
Yeah. I haven't seen it either.
Sorry.
Sorry. I have no
Hey, but then
idea.
again, I haven't seen most of the episodes we were on in Pokemon. I mean, like, we recorded them. I haven't seen them on the air. I mean, sometimes it's like you're working on so many things that you don't have time to watch that sort of stuff.
And, I think, and you were just becoming a dad. And,
Yeah, exactly.
Going through all that. But no, I'm sorry I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
So.
And just real quick, would Team Rocket ever try to steal the Blue Eyes White Dragon?
Oh, that would be a challenge. See, there's some cool sort of crossover. Could you imagine that? Or if, like, in Yu-Gi-Oh, they dueled with, like, Squirtle and Charizard and stuff like that? That's what I'm talking about. That'd be kind of cool. I would watch.
Did you ever?
Only if they hired me. Yeah. Good question.
Did you ever accidentally say "Go Squirtle" when you were recording it?
No, but sometimes I say, because I'm supposed to say, like, I play my Blue Eyes White Dragon. Sometimes I've said I choose, and I'm like, no, I don't choose.
No, stop it.
No. Hey. Hey, nice shirt.
Hello.
Thank you.
Here's a random thing. I'm the Magikarp salesman.
Amazing. Okay. My question is,
cool.
what is your favorite Team Rocket scheme? Whether that's disguises
Oh.
or giant mechas
Yeah.
or anything like that.
Do you have one?
Gosh, well, you know what? I kind of liked. Do you guys remember the Spinnerack episode when they were wearing the black uniforms with the little capelets? The cat burglars. And even Meowth got a cool situation. And there was just something really cool about that. They just decided to go full-on regalia with that and reenact, that old scheme. And and I also like it because I like the way this is gonna sound corny. I like the way Eric delivered one of James's lines. Meowth, if you remember this episode, he was eating rice out of a very precious bit of pottery because they had stolen. And James said, "Why are you eating your lunch out of that priceless bit of pottery?" It just got so angry.
Because I'm so subtle.
It was just like one of those moments that I just loved their dynamic and their relationship. They were just so comfortable with each other that they just would just be in the middle of something and then just have a huge argument. So I love that. That's the first thing that came to mind.
Mine is when James pretends he's Professor Oak.
Yeah, that's a good
In
one.
the game show where they're right, and so I basically can do a pretty good Professor Oak, right? And so I did it like that, and Kathy Borland, who was producing the show at the time, was reviewing the episode afterwards, and she said, "Eric, you can't sound like Professor Oak." And I said, "But I'm James." She's like, "I know, but you can't out-oak Oak." Like, the kids are supposed to know that you're not really Professor, because they looked the same too. I was like, oh man. But that was one of my favorite ones, because if the version that didn't air, I was really trying to match Stuart as much as I could so that it was identical. But yeah, I had to James it up a little bit. Yeah.
So
But good question.
Their names overlap.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, good
Thank
question.
you very much.
Hi, folks.
Hey.
This
Hello.
is a question for Eric from
Right.
my buddy Sebastian.
Hello, Sebastian.
It is, what Pokemon would Kaiba have as his favorite, and which Yu-Gi-Oh monster would James have as his?
Well, I think because of the dragons, Kaiba would play Charizard, right? Even though it's got red in it, and that's kind of Joey's color, right? Yeah, if Squirtle and Charizard had a child and it was blue, that would work. And then what would James play from? Oh, goodness. Probably Pot of Greed. Yes, thank you. Hey, nice cosplay, way to represent.
Thank you. So I know that the two of you will have different backgrounds on this, so I'm interested in knowing what you think it's like to have to sing for a role, because I know the two of you were both on the Pokemon album.
Yes.
I know that Rachel was in the Irresponsible Captain Tyler movie, which had a musical segment. Wow. So I'm wondering about that.
So
I
what
was
is it
like,
like to
wow.
sing on the projects?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, at least for me, James, I thought should sing well, right? I thought that James should. I mean, he should sound like somewhere between Tim Curry and David Bowie. That's what I thought. But Brock was not supposed to sing well, and that, as a singer, it was hard to sing badly and out of not even just out of key, but his timing. There's some of the things I had to do which were wacky, but it was fun. I actually. On the Pokemon Live, the show that they put on at Radio City, I sing as Brock. The guy that played Brock on stage he's not on the cast album. I'm the voice actor because they wanted it to really sound that bad. So that was the challenge, but it's always fun to sing in character. And we did the Christmas album, the Pokemon Christmas Bash, and it's the same thing. It's like, I feel like if you're working on a show like that, it's fun to have the characters sing, not bring in other singers to sing for them, but have the actors sing as in character, even if they don't sing well. So that was my experience with it. It was fun.
It was cool. Well, I learned that in Japan, the many voice actors are recording artists, and that's why so many characters tend to sing. And I can't believe you brought up the Yuriko song. That's incredible. Oh, it's a beautiful song. It's really gorgeous. Because Yuriko starts the song, and the cast members one by one join her, and it all ends in all of them singing. It's almost kind of Les Mis-y a little bit. Yeah, it's like they gave me the roommate of the director, who at the time was Dan Green, modeled the song on tape, and I listened to it. I took it home and listened to it and learned the song. And I recorded first and was very nervous because I hadn't recorded before, and it was kind of a challenging song in many ways because they had to adapt it from Japanese into English, and it didn't always work, so we had to figure it out. So that was very cool to have the opportunity to do that. I just basically had to get over major nerves. Sometimes you just have to get over it and do it. So yeah, and then as Team Rocket, that was kind of I said, well, of course they sing, of course they do. Look, they make costumes, they dance, they do grand gestures, they plan this stuff in advance just to say their motto. They are the most organized. It's like they're villains, but they're really divas, and so the whole Team Rocket thing is just an excuse for them to do that. So I thought that Jessie would probably just sound like a total diva, like woo, and I'm the queen and everything. Of course she would, and of course she and James would have a ball doing that.
I think that's the idea for the next duets album. What do you think? Jesse and James sing all the hits
Sing all this.
You know, Sonny and Cher, stuff like that. I got
They
You Babe with
say
Jesse
we're
with Team
young
Rocket.
and we don't know.
Hey, that could be very successful.
We'll just do like a
Yeah.
whole 70s.
That's right.
thing.
Yeah, exactly. All the duets.
Do you think you guys would listen to that album?
You totally would listen to that. What's your schedule like next week?
See, you know, Eric used to make jokes when we first started about Pokemon on Ice. It's like pretty soon it's going to be an Ice Capade show, and the next thing you know,
Yeah.
they did a live musical.
I was
It's
like, what?
It's like
Should have cashed in on that.
See,
yeah.
now it's out there.
Yeah. Good
So now-
questions, though.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Hey.
Hi, a question for you both. I'm just wondering, because you both played the heroes and the villains to some extent, how was that in terms of, you know, balancing both roles, and which side of it did you prefer?
I have to lean towards the comedic villain. I don't have a favorite, but do you guys remember Wacky Racers? Dick Dastardly and Muttley? So I used to root for them. I wanted them to win, and they almost won every time because they made me laugh as a kid. And I always thought the challenge of Team Rocket, because a lot of the episodes, they weren't really in the whole episode. They'd make their appearance and get blasted off. That's a catchphrase, isn't it? But it put a lot of pressure on the moment, right? If I'm only going to say 5 lines and then disappear till the next, 2 minutes in or 3 minutes in, I need to really, entertain. And so I liked that challenge. I almost didn't care what was going on in the rest of the episode. I wanted to make sure that our little bit was funny. So yeah, I have to lean towards the James stuff, yes.
Yeah, villains are always more fun to do because, they're complicated and they get to do things that make the protagonist's lives difficult. And, you have Misty being incredibly sensible and, and then she would lose her temper sometimes. But I love how Jessie was just so, into her part. I think she was playing a part. Sometimes I felt that it was a role within a role. Like Jessie and James were actually good-hearted people, but they wanted so much to belong that they wanted to blend in with Team Rocket. That was always my impression of them, that they were just both tender-hearted, loving people who had been hurt so much that they said, we're just gonna embrace this. So I thought that was a really cool feeling kind of to have about a character. So that's why I like Jessie.
Yep.
Like I lean towards that, but I like them. I know it's like lame, but I did like them both very much.
Yep.
I like them so much. I thought they were both
Good
cool.
question. Yes,
Thank
thank you.
Question for Eric. How would James and Kaiba interact with each other?
Oh, yeah. See, I've done that before. I don't think Kaiba would give him the time of day. That's the problem. There's no way. Though, Team Rocket kept their jobs for a long, long time. So, Kaiba might have been impressed with their resume because he obviously has no patience for his employees. So he might have kept them on, even just to entertain himself. But yes. Yeah, good question. Yeah.
Why does Team Rocket always seem to go after Pokemon that belong to the protagonists?
I think it's their job, right? That's their thing, right? That's what they're hired to do, or that's been their thing since the beginning. They have their own, right? But it's really just mostly after Pikachu. Because Pikachu's pretty awesome. So everybody wants their hands on that. So I understand that. But as Rachel was saying, I never thought of Team Rocket as villains. They're not bad guys. They just have a different sort of plan, and but they're still good people. But wouldn't you try to capture Pikachu?
Yeah.
Right?
I think it just kind of sets them up for failure when you're going after a protagonist.
Yeah.
And they just it's like a punishment in the underworld or something in mythology. It's like they almost get there and it's like, oh, it's snatched away. And it's repeated over and over, and it's like in different ways, and they keep trying to figure it out. And it's never gonna happen.
But our own Pokemon just attack us. So we need to find something else to use. I know, attack me. It's like, come on.
Meowth.
Maybe Pikachu wouldn't do that, right?
Well, Meowth never discriminated on the scratch attack. And
That's
always
right.
went for them both.
That's right.
Very much.
Yes.
I was always a big fan of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good question, though. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
that. Yeah.
Hi.
Hey.
What is your favorite part about Team Rocket's dynamic with each other and Meowth?
Well, they have the friendship bond as well. I mean, that's the same thing as the good guys, right? As we say, we're supposed to be the villains. They're friends. I mean, I think as much as, maybe Jesse yells at James and or we get scratched by Meowth, they stick up for each other. There are episodes that show that, there is a bond there. They just have a different path that they're taking. That doesn't mean that they're selfish and individuals. So I think that they're very close friends. I could see, when Jesse and James are not on duty, that they just like have dinner together and go see a movie, with Meowth.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
hanging out together.
Yep.
Going on vacation or
Yeah.
something. It's like they're cast members of the show, and then when the camera stops rolling, they say, "Hey, let's go get a burger."
Yeah.
But I think my favorite part of their dynamic is the fact that Jesse, James, and Meowth are the most unlikely of friends, because James is from a very wealthy background, and Jesse's like abandoned by her parents and lost soul, and Meowth kind of has a similar kind of lost background, and they were all just very, very lost in their own ways, and they found each other, and it just clicked for them. And I thought that was just so nice, because so much in life you think, you look at your best friend or something, and you're like, it's like, wow, we just met and we just clicked, and I really enjoy that about them, because it seems like it just gets stronger over time. That was my impression from the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good question,
Thank
though.
you.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah. Hey.
Okay, hi.
Hey, what's
I
up?
have 2 questions for both of you.
Okay.
Question number 1 is, what is your favorite Eevee evolution?
Why is it always the Eevee evolution? And I always get confused. You know so much more about this stuff than I do.
I don't know.
I'll just agree with you.
Okay. Well, Vaporeon is an Eevee evolution, isn't it?
That's mine.
Okay. No, it's a water Pokemon. I kind of like the water Pokemon too. I like the fighting ones and the water Pokemon. Like a friend of mine is a molecular biologist, and he has an Eevee he has a little plush Eevee at his workstation, and Eevee is his favorite Pokemon. This is gonna be weird, okay? Because it's like a pluripotent stem cell. It can differentiate into Vaporeon.
I told you she knew more about this stuff than I did.
No, I'm just like surrounded by interesting people. So, no, seriously.
Scientists, mad scientists.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. But yeah, I think Eevee's very cool. So, I guess we're both Vaporeon.
Yes, good answer. Good answer. Show me Vaporeon. I think, okay. All right, sorry, that was Family Feud reference. Let's go.
I love it. Yeah.
Question number 2 is, what is your favorite episode? Like a Pokemon.
Well, I have to be honest with you. I never knew when one season ended and the next one began, because we didn't stop working on the show. For all of those seasons, we had like maybe a week off, and then we just pick up on the next one. So it was all this one long journey with no parents around, So I really didn't have like a favorite one episode, but there were definitely moments. I like the Jezebel episode. That was a fun. I liked when we sort of got to the story behind James's life. I thought that those were kind of neat moments, things like that. The Growlithe kind of stuff. I mean, there's all of there's some very touching moments in that stuff. The funny things, more of the funny lines were from some of the movies and things like that. But I just enjoyed when we sort of got the backstory to justify that these characters, once again, you will find someone you can relate to. You know how many people James is their favorite character, and that's a bad guy. And now, is their favorite character because he made you laugh so much? You liked the funny, you liked the humor. As a kid, when I was like the new kid in school, I because I was shy, my thing was I was going to be funny. If I was funny, I'd make friends. And so maybe that's why you're drawn to a character like that. So I like when we sort of get the backstory to these characters so that every one of them is justifiable to be the one that is your favorite, that we know that they're not just more than just the surface. So, yeah. Good question, and I still love those mittens. I'm telling you, I'm going to take those from you.
I have a couple. First, what is your favorite Team Rocket disguise? And the next is, what was your favorite song to sing that they got to sing?
Oh, gosh. Well, they had so many, didn't they? Well, I think in the Ninja Mansion episode when they went full kabuki, that's when I realized they're not just stopping with the tutus and they're going full on. I mean, I think they have a whole costume department that travels with them. Yeah. I don't know. I just thought that it was just so hilarious every time. I liked the Lovely Charming Network disguises when they didn't really try too hard to disguise themselves. They just wore suits and they just
right.
Yeah, it's like, and still it's like the Clark Kent effect. The protagonists didn't recognize them. Like, oh yeah, you want to interview us? Okay.
Yeah.
And Jesse's like, oh, so it's like, oh, these children are so stupid. No. But yeah, I enjoyed that because they were just they burst into Delia Ketchum's kitchen where they're all eating, and it's like, oh, so we're gonna have she did like a little bit of a disguised voice, and I've been watching some of the episodes recently to reacquaint myself a little bit with it and realize I love the show just as much. And they're just like in the kitchen and they're just like eating the food, like, because they're hungry all the time. I just thought that was hilarious. It's like sad, but hilarious. So that's probably one of several favorites. And nothing else comes to mind at the moment, but that's probably one that I'd pick right now.
The song, Double Trouble was fun to do. The two of us singing that song, that was a lot of fun. Disguises, I do like the suits and like when James had like a mustache at one point, and but it is fun to play a character that is then in disguise, right? The audience knows exactly who we are, except for that Professor Oak episode. Yeah, Flaming Moltres. That's definitely got some great quotes in that episode. But it was fun to do that, to be in voice and then have to do a character on top of that, multi-layers like that. So yeah, I liked when they dressed up in suits. I thought that was pretty, because it was kind of like, it's obviously Team Rocket. Somebody's got to recognize them. But good question. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
So I'm sad to say this is the 5-minute warning.
5-minute warning.
So we'll see what we can get through.
All right, I was just wondering, would you guys be able to do the Team Rocket motto?
Oh, do you want to do the whole thing?
Just 2 lines?
Yeah, let's do. How about we just do the opening line for you so that we can get to everybody's questions? Does that make sense?
Prepare for trouble.
And make it double. I need to get a picture of them. Hey guys, how about a picture for you? Yeah! Woo! All right, thank you.
Jazz hands?
Yeah. Hey.
Hi. Can you sing the Team Rocket song over and over and over again without getting annoyed?
I can do that. How much money you got on you? He thinks I'm kidding. I'm an actor,
again,
man.
something just popped in my head.
Hey, wait. Yeah, I know you.
Hey, I know you too.
Yeah.
Anyways, if you folks in the audience are not yet aware, Holiday Hijinks was actually taken out of physical releases for obvious reasons. However, in Japan, it actually recolored Jinx to make it look less questionable. So if the Japanese can carry these edits, why can't North America have these edits?
I don't.
So even with those edits, that character is inappropriate for America.
Yeah.
Okay? There's a lot of things that don't cross over culturally. You know, the Japanese didn't have the same sensitivities that we did in our country. And also, just to touch on the broadcast standards and practices of the networks, we have rules in America on Saturday mornings between the hours of 6 and 12, and they're dictated by the network, not by the production company. So we would submit every show, every script, and they would review it within their network and say, cut that out, take that out, change that cigarette to a lollipop, do whatever you need to do in order to pass the standards. So where everybody's like, oh, you guys did this, you guys did that. But the other thing is, by being able to be on network television, you have things like this. Pokemon went from being in the back of the video store or anime being some sort of weird thing to the most popular pop culture kind of thing, fandom, right? Comic-Cons and things like that. So making those changes so that they were accessible to kids who don't need to be exposed to things that might be inappropriate at that age, also made it the norm instead of some sort of cult thing. And that's pretty much what that's all about. So yes, certain things can be edited, but that character is not appropriate for an American audience.
Oh, thanks very much.
Yep, you got it. Yep.
Hi. Could you maybe give a few brief thoughts on how you feel about Jesse and James's relationship with their foil, Butch and Cassidy?
Well, you know I'm Butch, right?
Yes.
There is a fun episode where Brock and Misty and Ash are there with Jesse and James and Butch and Cassidy, and they're all yelling and arguing with each other. And I really, since it was James and Brock and Butch all on camera at the same time, I was like, can't we just call this episode Eric Stuart featuring Pokemon? But yeah, I mean, Butch and Cassidy are great. I mean, I think they're great. But Jesse and James, I think, are cooler than that. Yes, yes.
I think Butch
they're
and,
the original.
I think Butch and Cassidy are what Jesse and James want to be.
Yes, yes.
But they just are not.
There's a lot of yelling from them, too, though. They also yell.
Oh, sure.
Way too much yelling.
There's insecurity on both sides.
Yes.
Okay. Final question.
Hi.
What do you think would have happened if Team Rocket actually caught Pikachu?
It's an interesting question to end on.
Yeah.
I think the show probably would have been over. I think it's like saying what would have happened if the two main characters like got together and got married or something. Instead of like throwing all these obstacles in their path, what if they finally achieved a certain thing and then I think it would have come to an end. But I think they might have just, I don't know, like would they have reprogrammed Pikachu to join Team Rocket? I mean, there's so many. Pikachu would have struggled the whole way, like he struggled with Ash. But would it have been like a Stockholm syndrome, where Pikachu would just have to deal with it?
Would Pikachu be jealous of Meowth and Meowth be jealous of? I mean, that's kind of weird too. I think they probably would have just moved on to another goal. I mean, that's really the life lesson, right? You can set this as that's what you're going after, but then once you accomplish it, you can't just say I'm done. Right? Then you pick another thing to do so that the next level up. So who knows? Maybe they became supervisors at Team Rocket, and then they told Butch and Cassidy what to do. Right? We obviously could capture this thing. It took us 30 years, but we captured it. So now we can tell you how things are done, right?
And they don't age, so
That's right.
It would be
But good. That's,
going on and on and on.
Did you have an answer to that question? Okay, but good question. This was great.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank
Thank you,
so
guys.
much.